Alrighty. Hi, Barbara. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me today. I want to get out a few of my colors so I can be prepared, and I will tell you everything that I used for the cards today. Daffodil, coral. There was some that I used a lot of stuff for, and then some that I didn't. It just kind of depended what I was working on. But I will do my best to remember what I had out, because I kind of didn't stick them all back where they go. I think that one was too dark. And light. I think that was it for the Halloween. So, how do you have time for video when you're working? You're so cute. Well, this is back to school week. The kids came back yesterday. They were here for an hour. And today they were there for 2.5 hours. And it was a long 2.5 hours. Hi, Karen. Thank you guys all for joining me today. So what we're going to be working on today are some really cute cards. And I'm going to show you what I started with. So you might have missed this, but this is some really cool 12 by 12 DSP. It is a host DSP. It is a lot of DSP. And I have it here because I want to show you. I did use some of it already, but it is 12 by 12. So you can see it's rather large. And you know what? Let's see. I'm trying to make sure it's still live. I know we had a big free moment there, so I do apologize for that. I haven't done a live in so long. I forgot to actually put it on to do not disturb mode. Okay, so I can see myself live. So, got a spinning wheel, a spinning wheel of death. Okay, so I'm going to give it just a minute for everybody to pop back in, and I'm actually going to change the background to a different piece of paper so I can make sure that everybody can see me, so you know that it's refreshed. So if you can see me and we're now on Halloween paper, give me a thumbs up or a yes. I'm sorry about that. Been a minute. So anyway, we are going to take this pretty plain DSP and we're going to turn it into something way more fun. Thanks, Barbara. So this is a really great set of DSP, and you can use this as one of your host benefits. So it's $18. You get 48 sheets, though. It's got a lot of really cool sheets. You could use this for 4th of July next year, Memorial Day, I suppose. You could also use it for New Year's Eve. Listen to me. Lots of different fun patterns. And we also I love this one too. This one is adorable. But we also came with a few black and white designs. So they kind of gave you a little bit of, kind of mix match stuff. This one will be great with any of our water or nautical related stamp sets. And I'm going to show you one more that's my favorite. This is the other one that we're going to be using today. So we have the trees and the pumpkins. This one is also one of my favorites. But a team member of mine, Colleen, was doing a card recently. And she did something with this tree. And I thought, wow, that's really cute. And it was a really simple card. And it struck me, which this just goes to see where my ideas come from. And I thought, wow, this would be super cool if you colored it in. But then I was kind of thinking, how would you color it in? So Stampin' Blends is what I went with. So we started with this black and white. And I took it to this. Now, I will say I did do a little goofing with this one. And I got a little purple where I wasn't supposed to, which is why I ended up going, thankfully, with this little belly band because I have two little whoopsies here, but it covered it up with the belly band. So that was really cool. So this one I actually backed onto Poppy Parade. And instead of using Poppy Parade or red ink, because I wanted to have a little bit of red, and I actually used Sweet Sorbet, believe it or not. Hi, Stacy. Thanks for joining. And then this is what I did with the inside. So I'm sure a lot of you will recognize this. This is the Trees for Sale stamp set. Now, we did have a coordinating die that went along with this, and I'm going to show you because some of you probably were able to get your hands on it. This was a celebration bonus. It had a lot of dies in it. You remember the camper, super, super adorable. So you could die cut these if you wanted to, but you could probably also use something else. But I just wanted to do it with a belly band. So really my whole component of this went more so with the trees for sale, which that would even make a great card. But I wanted to show you how we did the trees. And then the other one that I did that was really, really adorable was Halloween. And I love Halloween. Love it. It's one of my favorites. But I thought this paper could just use like a little bit of excitement to it. So I went a little bit crazy. It's kind of hard to believe, and I'm going to take off this belly band, that these are even the same papers. Isn't that just amazing? I mean, absolutely same papers. Just one of them's colored in. So I'm going to show you. The trees is a really simple one. I'm also going to show you how to do the Halloween version. That one is where I used all these blends. I'll show you with the trees first. It's a little bit simpler. And then with the Halloween card, what I ended up using was the Scary Cute bundle. And I stamped these little trick-or-treaters here in black. I actually ended up doing a blended background. And then I stamped it. There is also a coordinating stamps or a die set that goes with this. So this has these little trees, little haunted house. I was going to use the haunted house with the people walking in the background, but the size didn't really match up. So I ended up just putting the haunted house on the inside. But how adorable is that? So you could also do this not as a gatefold, but it certainly is cute. So I'm going to show you how to color it. We're not actually going to complete the card today, because it is a little bit labor intensive to do this whole thing, but it was pretty simple if you were sitting down to fool with it. But I'm going to show you how to color in the cards with the Stampin' Blend. So I'm just going to set this off to the side. And then same with this one. And it was really fun. And I think it was really fun because I just got an idea from somebody else and kind of went with it. So I want to thank my downline, Colleen. If you don't follow her, she is also on YouTube, and I'll have to look and post her YouTube page. If anybody happens to know it off the top of your head, you certainly are welcome to share it. But her name is Colleen Light. I think, you know what, it's Cards by Coco, so she does some really cute cards. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off, and I'm going to get you, just so you don't have to look at this yucky piece of paper. I'm going to flip this over. That way it's a little bit cleaner of a slate. So you can see we have the Christmas and then we have the Halloween. And I did see your comment, Stacy. I can't believe the holidays are here again. It feels like time just flies no matter what you're doing. Christian's in 3rd grade. I don't know where time has gone, and really that's all I've got. So for a lot of these cards, I kind of mixed and matched a lot of the green. So I'm just going to put this one up here so it's out of the way. I did use the dark Parakeet Party for this, but we have Granny Apple Green, and I kind of tried to mix it up a little bit. I think this is, nope, dark. I want to grab light Old Olive, light Mossy Meadow. I am going to use Daffodil Delight just for the yellow portions here. And the other one I used, which was probably ironic, is dark Soft Sea Foam and Shaded Spruce. Oh, I forgot one more. Light Shaded Spruce. And I don't know if Donna's watching, but Donna's favorite mint macaron. So believe it or not, there's actually mint on here. So what I did was I kind of just picked a spot and started. Sometimes it's easier to start with the smaller things. Sometimes it's not. But I'm going to use dark Daffodil Delight with the bullet tip. And I'm going to just do the stars. Was this the one I used? Now I'm looking at it. It looks a little bit dark. You know what? That's dark. That's why. I want to use light. So I'll have couple light, couple dark. But you basically just are going to color in. And actually that one I did in a different, now that I'm thinking of it. And it really can be as much or as little as you want. You can even add in a little bit of Pool Party, which you could kind of have like the blue sort of look to the stars. And I want to show you one other thing I want to show you, which you can't see on the card that's finished, just because of the dynamic of how I made the card, is what it looks like from the back, because it definitely needs to be covered up. I will tell you that from Jump Street, because it really distorts the background. So it's not anything that you could have as a card that doesn't have a back to it. So I'm pretty sure I got almost all of it. Let me do this one. So again, that was Light Daffodil Delight. And then from here, it's kind of just really whatever you want to do. So I'm going to start with the light Granny Apple Green. And I kind of did this, again, really willy-nilly. So I'm going to just come in here and put some light on a couple spaces. It doesn't really have to be anything particular. I tried to keep it kind of light for the center. And I do apologize if you can hear it. So Christian is next door. He has finally discovered the joys, and I say that with a little bit of tongue-in-cheek, the joys of Roblox. So we've entered that stage. Dark Granny Apple Green. And I'm going to use the bullet tip for this. And I'm just kind of picking a side to add shading to. It doesn't necessarily have to be the same side, but we'll just pick. And then a couple of them, you'll just add a little bit of a different look. For some of them, I only used one solid particular color. For another one, I can add in some dark spots here. So again, this is dark Granny Apple Green. I'm just using the shading. And I don't believe we have pear. This is light Granny. That's Parakeet Party. I was fibbing about that other one earlier. I said this was dark Granny Apple. It's dark Parakeet. So this is light Granny Apple. But I don't believe we have Pear Pizzazz as one of our blends colors. So it could be that it was just too similar to something else and they ended up not creating it. But you can... And when your brush tips, it's just a little minute to show you this, but when your brush tips do get frazzled, don't get rid of it. You can always use the other side. I will say 9 times out of 10, you can always use the other side. But even if you can't, you still can get a good amount of color out of it. You just have to blend it a little bit more gently. And it generally still works out pretty well. Okay, so there's that. And I'm just kind of switching colors. So we have light old olive. Bring this in here. You can pick a center portion to concentrate on. You can kind of keep it so it's all uniformly one color and have a darker center. It really just depends. And this one, what did I pick for this? That's Shaded Spruce, believe it or not, which is kind of crazy. And here's Dark Shaded Spruce. This kind of almost looks to me like it would be Bermuda Bay, but light mossy. Oh, this is what, I don't know if this has ever happened to anybody else before, but this one Stampin' Blend that I have, I'm watching it pop on the replay. It always comes apart. Does that happen to anybody else? So usually what I do is pull it back, pull the end off and cap it. But it's just that one. It's just one marker, but it's the same one, so... Just kind of funny. A little bit of more live action there for you. All right, and I'm going to do a little bit on the side. So anyway, we're now in the world of Roblox. I mean, I think we might have missed the Fortnite bandwagon, so I guess I should be thankful for that, right? Because I hear that's almost as much as a doozy. This is Mint Macaron. So I'm kind of just adding just little bits of color in, and pretty much, I'm going to tell you this, unless you're going to do all of this at the same time, which you certainly could, because there's definitely enough paper that you could just color a whole entire sheet and it would look really, really cool. They're never going to look the same, which kind of is almost pretty neat. All right, then I have light mint macaron. I'll just do a little bit of that in the center here. And remember, for the other thing for this is you're not going to really see a lot of the blending. So if you add different colors in, it really totally changes the shading of your trees. Because it's not going to be, even just seeing these all apart, it's not going to be anything where it really sticks out. And also, if you do go outside a little bit, it kind of gives a really cool shadow look to it. So don't feel like you have to be perfect. All right, and then I have dark soft seafoam, because this color is definitely not as visible. So the light you really can't see a lot on this at all because of all the amount of black that you have. And since I don't use this one very often, it should have, yes, a really nice tip. So I'm going to bring this in and blend. But you can get a lot of different color combinations for these. I actually colored this the other day. We were watching, Christian watches a plethora of videos. We went from a Halloween, if any of you remember the Headless Horseman, the original one, the Disney that Bing Crosby narrated. We went from that to watching Home Sweet Home Alone, which is kind of funny. So I don't know if he needed a little bit of lightheartedness after watching a really old, not so scary Halloween movie, which just kind of cracks me up. So finally shaded spruce, and I'm just adding some highlighted bits, nothing really too specific. And the only other thing is I do want to go in and make sure I get the trunks. Okay. I feel like that looks pretty good. And oh Lord. Well, I must not have used this one. This is another one it's happened with. I wonder if it's ones that I don't use very often with the pop out effect. Be curious to know. I should pay attention to that. Okay. All right, so I'm going to go in with my probably easiest blendable color, which should be light Granny Apple Green. Yep. And I'm going to, my brush tip on this one's just a little bit busted up. So I'm just going to very gently smooth it. And then I'm going to go in and just add a little bit of light coloring on a couple of them. Just to kind of blend the edges in a little. I'm going to flip for this one because it's so tiny. So I hope everyone has been doing well. I know I did try my best to fit this in over the summer, but I'm guessing I'm just at the age now with Christian when I really need to enjoy it because it feels like it's flying by so fast. And there's so many things I want to do, but I just do not have the time to do them all, which really makes me sad. Because I love crafting and I love hanging out with you all. So I'm going to move these off to the side. And now one other thing I didn't show you, and I should show you this because I did this here. Even the trees that were just black, what I did, somebody used light shaded spruce, oh, wrong end, is I went and I kind of traced the outline of the tree just to give it something. So it didn't really have to have coloring necessarily, but it almost kind of helped it to pop a little bit more so it wasn't such stark differences with the black and white. Because there's not too many of them. All right, and then I'm going to just use 400. So this is the neutrals. A lot of times people refer to this as the skin tones, which they do work super, super well for skin tones, but they also are great for lots of other things. Anything neutral that you might need. So I just did a couple of the tree trunks. So that was fairly simple. And then the only other thing I did, and I'm going to see if there is still any, this is purple. There is still, this has a teeny bit of red. So when I did this one, I used Sweet Sorbet. It's a little bit pinky, but it's not really too pinky. So just to show you the difference, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this one with Poppy Parade. And let me just make sure this is, there we go. Make sure that's up. So I have a Stampin' Blends brush, and you're just going to very lightly dip your edge in. Pick up a little bit of ink. And you always want to start off, because if not, you'll get a really harsh edge. So what I'll do is I'm just going to take this and kind of go right around the edge just to add in a little bit of Christmassy red to this. And then the other thing you would do, so you can see you have kind of like this bright spot in the center, is when you trim your cardstock, because you are going to use this. If you do it for a gatefold, you're going to just cut it in half. So this is 4 by 5 1/4. So I'm just going to cut this at 2. And then you want to make sure that you do the same for the inside. So just bring this in just a little bit. And then same, it's always easier for me to do this, probably because I'm right-handed on this side. And let me put this away. So again, I did that one in Poppy Parade this time. And then what I might do is when I finish this up, I think I might try mounting this onto Poppy Parade instead of Real Red. I don't think it would look as great if you did it on green, because there's a lot of green already and you kind of want something that's going to help distinguish it a little bit. So that's how you do that one, which is really fun. So we only really use the blending for the end there. So what do you guys think about that one? Do you like that one so far? So that is our number 1 card, the Christmas card. So remember, you do have that whole other black and white that has the fireworks on it. That will be another fun one. I'm going to pull it out so you can see. This would be another really fun one to do as well. You could even do this one vertically instead. So instead of doing a gatefold long ways, you could do the other direction. This one's really cool on this side though, so that would be a hard one to get rid of for me. All right, but this is probably more so the one that everyone wants to see, which is super, super cute. So this is the Halloween version. So I'm going to pull this out just so you can see what I did. So for this card, Halloween typically is like oranges, greens, purples. Those are usually the Halloween colors. So the only thing that I really did a little bit differently was for my ghosts, I have a lot of purple, dark purple, and then for this one, to kind of accent the fact that he was white, believe it or not, I actually used Pool Party. So I'm going to show you that because that was really simple. I didn't get super fancy with this. Let me just pop this off so you can see. I only kind of made them sporadic because I thought that would make the white ghost stick out a little bit more. So I tried not to do anything where it would have one next to the other. So just add a little bit. Nope, I must have used dark. That was light Pool Party. So I'm going to switch to dark. So bullet tip is a little bit better for this one because these are pretty slim. And if you don't have Pool Party, you probably could pull in Bermuda Bay, but it might not be quite, it might be almost a little bit too dark. So I'll do one up here. There you go. And the other thing I want to mention while I'm coloring this, I don't know if you guys have heard, but we are, for the month of September, you can find some special deals in my online store. They are 20% off of select items, and the items change weekly, so they're the weekly September specials. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pick up my light Daffodil Delight, okay, just because I'm going to do a couple of these in the center. So they're different ones, and they're 20% off, which is a cool bonus because it's a lot of stuff that you might really not have thought about stocking up on, but it'd be something great that you could add to your cart. Just if you were like, oh, well, since I'm shopping anyway, I could get some so-and-so. So I'm just doing a couple of these with just a little bit more of a yellow center, so I have a lighter spot. And the only other thing I did, and I'm going to do this ahead of time, because it kind of makes it easier for you to figure out what you did or didn't do, is I'm going to use light Mossy Meadow, and I'm going to do all of the, nope, that might be a little bit too dark. Yeah, let me do light Old Olive. That might be a little bit better. Yeah, light Old Olive, and I'm just coloring all the stems green. And believe it or not, when I did this the other day watching television, I was sitting at the kitchen table, and I missed all but one. So I colored all but one, which is surprising for me because when usually you're going around and doing something, it's almost always that you miss something. So there's all the pumpkin stems. Here's one down here. So we went in again with the light Daffodil Delight earlier, and then from here, it's kind of just whatever you want to do. So I'm going to use light. Now this tip is super busted. So this one kind of is to the point where you really can't color with it any longer. So this one I do usually still use the bullet tip, but it still has plenty of ink. So this is light Pumpkin Pie. And same thing again, I kind of pick one side. You can kind of put the marks down on your pumpkin if you want. I also will color in a few other ones while I'm at it, just adding in some centering. And you still can add some dark, so don't feel just because you add 2 colors, that's it. This is kind of the part where you can really see how much you can do with your Stampin' Blends, because you'll have so many extra colors if you're blending things together. So there's that. Now we'll go on to our dark. So what I'll do, it must be the way I'm pulling these, because this one did it too, and I don't think I've ever had a problem with this one. These are also, these are probably ready for the Stampin' Blends graveyard. I've had those since we started the blends. So this goes to show you, if you are, let's see if I can get this to come off. This is the difference between a new tip and an old tip. So this one is brand new. This one I've had since we started the Stampin' Blends, which has been quite some time. It's been several years. So they've lasted a while. And I will tell you one other thing. I use these for classes, and I don't buy extra pens for everybody. So who knows how many times these have been used, which is kind of a good point. They probably have been used a lot. Maybe by people who aren't necessarily as careful as I am, because, you know, when you're the only person using your own stuff, and I will even really include the rainbow stamper in that, you know, you're much more genteel with things than maybe someone else is. So they definitely have been very well used, but you really don't need, you don't want to ever push straight down with this. You definitely want to kind of go with a little bit of a side angle. All right, so that's a little bit. So that is some dark pumpkin pie. Now, the other one that might be surprising to you is Calypso Coral. So this kind of could be a color where you're thinking, that is not something I would use for a pumpkin, but this end is, this is probably another one that needs to be on its way to being replaced. But it really gives you some nice orange variations. Go. So, I don't know about you all, but I am definitely getting ready for fall in Maryland, because as much as I don't want the pool to close, which I definitely don't, it's really kind of getting to those, I don't want to say the dog days of summer, because I feel like that is usually an August thing, but it's getting is really hot here for a while. We finally had some rain a couple days ago, and I'm not complaining, because I know there's lots of people that haven't had rain in several years. Dark Calypso Coral. I almost say Coastal Cabana. That's definitely not. Which is surprisingly orangey. So see how you can just add like your little bit of shading here, and then what we'll do is we'll go back and blend that again with another color. It really gives a cool look to it. So I'm not going everywhere, because I don't really want it to be completely colored in. I want all of them to have a little bit of variation to them. And even a couple of them, I have a couple that I kind of did almost yellowish over here. So there was that. Let me go back in now. Now I'm going to bring in a little bit of dark Daffodil Delight. Nope, that's the wrong end. This one's probably at its almost limits as well. But so dark Daffodil Delight. And I know also one other thing to mention, that there are some people who are really particular with whether or not they color right away with their blends. Do they let it dry? Do they not let it dry? You can kind of do it whatever way you want. I really have found no hard or fast rules about blending with this, particularly when you have something with a background like this that really is going to make or break your blend. I am fairly certain they don't pick up any colors from one side to the other. This one's going to need a little bit of dark on this side, but we'll worry about that shortly. So just do what you feel comfortable with. And I think this was such a cool idea. And honestly, because you guys know I'm nothing if not honest. I can't even believe that I thought of this, so yay for me. That's the one that was, I think, towards its end. Yeah. Now that both ends have busted out of it, I feel like I can get rid of it. So I'm going to bring in a little bit of dark pumpkin pie. Same thing for this one. Just kind of brings some stuff up to it. A little bit of shading. I feel like oops, I missed one down here. Bring in a little bit of the dark over here. A little bit of dark here. I feel like I got all of those. Okay, now I'm going to bring in, once again, the light. I'm going to use the bullet tip, the light pumpkin pie, to just kind of finish off the rest of these that maybe I needed a little bit of a dark spot in a blend. And one other thing I've noticed with this, and I'm going to show you in a moment, you can kind of go outside the lines on these. If you held it to the side, you can slightly see that you've gone out of the lines, but most likely nobody's going to notice except for us crafters. But it's not really anything that's really moving it one way or the other. Okay, so one other thing is I'm going to do, I feel like I went with the light, but let me just see, because some of these are already, the stars are colored in yellow. So I'm going to just bring, so this is light pumpkin pie. And then I'll bring in a couple with the light Daffodil Delight. So you can kind of mix these up if you want. But I did color them all in just so they had a little bit of something. And I think it really helped the ghosts when I did these little purple ghosts, which you'll see in a minute. I really think it helped them stick out. Oh, there's one more. Okay. I know, isn't it? It is really just, it's incredible what this looks like. So Fresh Freesia, this is still an available color. I will tell you one thing, light is pretty light. It's not really so light as the Posy, but it's still pretty light. So let's see, we'll just kind of do a couple of these. Some of them have these ghosts. There's a lot of ghosts in this one area over here now. A lot. I don't want any of the ghosts that are that have the little bit of accent from Pool Party. I don't want them next to another one. So I'm trying to make sure I add some purple so I remember to color it. So this is just Fresh Freesia. Okay. And I believe that was light. Yes, light Fresh Freesia. Now we will go to light Highland Heather. And I'm going to use the bullet tip on this. Well, or not. I'm going to use, yeah. I'm going to use the brush tip here for this one. And I'm kind of doing it in different areas. Again, this is another one that I've had for probably as long as the blends have been out. Because even the ones that are dried out, I still tend to keep because I can use them for little projects that I need, or if I'm maybe showing somebody what it looks like, or you know, pulling a little bit of ink on something. So you really can still use it for other stuff. Okay. So that was light Highland Heather. Then we have dark Fresh Freesia, which is kind of more of a grapey purple. And the other one that you could use, which is Rich Razzleberry, that one was really, really dark. It was almost to the point where, not that it was indistinguishable, but it was really didn't do anything for the paper. It made it just too dark. So I'm just adding in a little bit of white, kind of in some random areas, because I am going to go back and reblend this again. So, because we have a couple different purples on some of these in different areas, which kind of almost makes it look really neat, but you definitely need something to overblend it with. And then finally, this one was really dark. but I still thought it looked cool. So this is Light Orchid Oasis. And it was almost like a bluish purple, because I know this is one of those colors where we're still kind of like, we don't really know what family it goes into. Sometimes it looks purple, sometimes it looks blue. If you put it next to blue, it looks purple. If you put it next to purple, it looks blue, but it is a really nice color. So I definitely wanted to add a little bit of that in. And then we'll just blend that out. Okay. All right, so that was probably the darkest we went, which is Light Orchid Oasis. So now, once again, you could do this with light fresh freesia. And I almost want to show you what the I'm going to show you what the raspberry looks like, just so you can see. It's kind of like a reddish purple. And it really doesn't blend as much with the rest of the purples that I chose. So you could use that if you were maybe concentrating on that, or maybe if that was your only color, you could use it. Dark Highland Heather. And let me see if I can find a spot for that. That one is very, very much close to grape. But again, almost kind of too dark. So it really just depends on what you want it to look like. So I'm going to grab, I think I used the Light Highland Heather. Yeah. And I'm just going to kind of go over the whole thing, which will kind of bring like those purples and the blues together. So, oops, almost went over the other one. Again, you don't necessarily have to do the whole thing. I'm using a really, really light hand, even though I'm blending over the whole thing. It is very noisy, but I'm really just using a super light touch for this. And this kind of almost brings in a little bit of shading that darkens the rest of the ghosts up. So it kind of gives you more like a highlight or a low light spot for your dark areas. That looks pretty good. I wish I would have left one white or lighter ghost up top, but still, I think it looks pretty cool. So I'm going to just take one more look, make sure I didn't miss anything else that I really wanted to do. I'm going to take my parakeet, and I'm just going to hit just a couple of these stems. Almost said trunks. So that's really a fun. You probably could even add a little bit of green to your ghost, make them look a little bit. That's kind of like a little nice touch there with a little bit of green. I didn't do that before on this one. These were like strictly pool party. But what I wanted to show you was, so here's your base of your card. Okay, remember this one had the belly band and everything else to it. And then here is the Christmas version, right? But look at the other side of this. This one's not so bad because it was kind of green and the background is green, so it's really not too terrible looking. This one looks crazy. So you couldn't put this, say, with like a vellum backing or a white backing. You could, but you want to make sure you pre-color this because it definitely totally will show through to the other side of the paper. But is that not the coolest thing? I mean, this coloring that we did, I'm going to go in and touch up just this one little spot. This coloring that we did wasn't really super fancy. It wasn't. I mean, you saw how I did it. I was not intentional with it. I was kind of just going. But it turned out so cool. So even with, you know, just willy-nilly, not perfect coloring, it still turned out really neat. So same thing again for this one. I'm just going to slide this over. What you would do is, and I did this is actually backed onto Blackberry Bliss. I did a little bit of blending with pumpkin pie. And then on this side, actually, I did use Blackberry Bliss. Just to kind of give a little bit of a creepy look. I took my, what is this called? Blender pen. And while this was still damp, I just added it in so it kind of looked like it was sitting on a cliff. But the other thing I did with this is I took paper and I just tore it and I sponged around it. So I'll show you what I mean for that. But basically for this one, you're going to just trim it at 2. Okay. So I'll show you what I mean. So This, I think, looks super, it really pops if you have it on something dark. So the other thing you could do with this, and you want to make sure you keep it lined up so you line them up to the correct size. You could do this with a really dark green. So I'm just going to lay it onto Mossy Meadow for a minute. We'll see what that looks like. And I almost don't know if it would do it justice. That really dark purple really does something for it. Mossy Meadow's not so great. So, and Shaded Spruce is too Christmassy. So Blackberry Bliss works really well. And I wonder what it would look like on black. Let me just pull out a piece for you so you can eyeball this if you grab it. Now black also does really make it pop, just because you have that little bit of a border. So I'm going to pull this, and what we're going to do is I'm going to cut this in half at 5 1/2, and I'm going to show you the easiest way I think to make this card. So in case you've never seen the Stampin' Trimmer before, it does have 2 different blades. This is for scoring, this is for cutting. The cutting blade is usually up top. I took mine out and moved it because I was just used to it that way. So when you're scoring this, you're going to score it at 2 1/4. So 5 1/2. Yep, that's right. 2 1/4. Sorry, I'm doing my fast math. Score it. And then you're going to fold that in. And I usually do this with my bone folder because you get a better crease. So you go over it. And then I'll take my other piece. I did it wrong. It was supposed to be 2 1/8. I fibbed. I take it back. I take it back. Because it's a 1/4, not an 1/8, Rach. Jeez Louise. So 2 1/8. Skirt. Pretend like you didn't see that. So I'm scoring it at 2 1/8, just like I said. And then you'll crease it with your bone folder. And then if you bring your other piece in and you fold it to the edge, this is the easiest way to get an even gatefold every single time. Because otherwise, I have scored this, and I tell you what, there's always either something overlaps or there's a gap. So I always score one, bring the other one in, and fold it. I find that it works really well for me. But anyway, let me just hit this here. So we're going to make sure that these are lining up so you can see if you have something here where you can see you split it. So you want to have one on each side. And I'm going to flip it like this just so it's easier for me to glue it down when it's flat. And I'm going to, oops, pull that little goop off. I'm going to just put some adhesive, oops, on here. 1. Oh gosh, now I don't know which one I like better, the black or the Blackberry Bliss. I really like the Blackberry Bliss just because I really like that purple. It's such a dark purple. I'm trying to make sure let me see. I lined it. Yeah, that lines up pretty well. So then you have both of your pieces here. Okay. Now, obviously, you definitely 100% have to have some sort of a white base on the inside. So I'll show you. I'm pretty sure this one is already cut to go. Yep, that looks pretty good. So when you're doing I want to just show you what I did earlier with my pieces. So this was pumpkin pie, and these were from several days ago. This was Blackberry Bliss, okay? So when you're doing your pumpkin pie, and I usually try to make sure my fingers are pretty clean, but just slightly. So this is inked just still from the other day because I don't usually wipe them out because I do them over again. So I didn't even need to re-ink it. Still had a little bit of ink in there. When I do, and I want to find you a nice scrap for this. Okay, so this is a really scrappy scrap. It's got stuff on the other side. But when you do these little ledges here, what I kind of do is I've done it both directions. So I'll put my little torn piece here if I wanted a hill. And same thing again. I'll just kind of, oops, I should have held that in place. I'll just kind of go over it. And then what you can even do is go kind of under it to bring in a ledge. So you don't have to necessarily go the one way. So you have 2 different ledges there. You can bring this piece in and just stay on this side then and fill it in. Okay. Stay here. So it kind of looks like a rocky something or other. And then with the rest of this, just because you have all that purple there, just bring this in. And then finally what I did, because I was trying again to fit that haunted house on there, since I still had slightly damp ink, and I used, this is the white version, I wanted one. I have one that I use very specifically for black ink and white craft ink. This is just a regular one here, so just make sure it's wet. And then I kind of went in here when I just finished. I don't know if you can see this or not, but it just kind of re-wets what you just did. So you can almost create, kind of makes it look like a rocky ledge without really doing anything else to it. So have that come down. But it just reactivates that ink because this has glycerin in it. Now you do want to make sure when you're finished with this that you wipe it until it's completely clear, and then you can use this again on any color whatsoever. The only thing is I don't ever use it on white or black. I have a very specific one for those two inks. But you can add anything in. So you could add just a little bit of like a rocky area here or something. You're just adding in a little bit of the illusion of texture, which I think is pretty cool to be able to do with that. So then you could die cut your haunted house, put that on there. I'm going to just put this in as it is. We can always add something after the fact to it. Ooh, that was a little bit of glue, more than I wanted. Well, this one's not going anywhere. All right. Yep, so hard to believe I have an almost 9-year-old third grader. His birthday is at the end of this month, which is still mind-blowing to me. My oldest niece is in middle school now in 6th grade, and then my younger niece, Christian's cousin, they're both in 3rd grade. So aren't those super cool? So I bet they'll really like this. Oh, but you know what? I did do a green ghost here. Darn, that's what I forgot. So I had purple, white, and green ghost. That would have been, I accented it. I totally forgot that I didn't even do that there, but really, really super fun. So belly bands, also another thing I want to show you. This is really, really quite simple. So I'm going to see, what do I have here? I don't know if I have anything that's usable. Let's take a peek. We probably could do just a little haunted house on this. So I'm going to cut a little piece of black. And could use the cat, but yeah, I think I'm going to use the haunted house. So a little haunted house. We're just going to make a simple belly band because I'm going to show you how easy this is. So I'm going to grab my black. I know I have a piece that has still probably a little scrap of adhesive sheet, which I don't really necessarily need. Actually, I don't need that for this because it's so thin. No, I might as well. I'm going to just grab a piece anyway. So I'm going to grab a little piece of adhesive sheet. So we do sell these. These come in 6 by 12. There are 12 pieces in here. Really, really easy to use. So you can see I still have some other little scrappy pieces here. And it makes, if you have these little die cuts, it makes them almost into stickers. So I'm going to show you how this works. I'm going to take my sticker. Oops, I was right on the right side. This has the adhesive. This is just the release paper. And just putting it onto the back of my black cardstock. So now this will be like a sticker. So I'm going to die cut this. I'll be right back. Okay, so pretty simple. This just pops out. You can see that there. And then I could use this for something else. So I always save the little pieces because you never believe what you could use them for. I'm going to use my little paper piecer. Hi, Sherry. Hope you're well. Thank you for joining. If you missed the beginning, this will be available for the replay. You can always go back and catch it. It's pretty cool. I think it's really cool what we did today. Not like I'm the first person to ever think of coloring on paper, but the fact that I'm the first person that I've seen should add that note to it. That's done this to it is pretty amazing to me. All right, so we have our little haunted house. I probably should have done a moon, but that's okay. We'll work on that for another one, or maybe I'll add it after the fact. So we have black card, black haunted house. So I feel like we kind of need something bright. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to pick Daffodil Delight because it'll kind of shine through. So you don't need a huge piece. And unfortunately, I don't have any pieces. I don't have any scraps of daffodil. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a little strip. So, let's see if this is. I'm going to just give this an eyeball what I think it measures. That's about 1.5, 4, that's 5. And I'm gonna do this long ways just in case. So I'm gonna pop off an inch piece of this. And you definitely don't need this much. So if you had a piece that's thinner, you could totally use this. And I'm gonna show you what I'm gonna show you by just cutting off a willy-nilly piece of it. You can see that was no measurements. So if you have this and you're kind of like, oh, I really want a belly band, but I only have this little piece of something left. What you're going to do is this. Take your card and you're going to fold it. Now this one, because we have the little bit of the house, it might or might not turn out exactly what I want it to look like, but if not, no big deal. So say if this had a gap, right? So let's just pretend right here, there's a gap here. You don't even need it to close all the way because what's going to happen is this is going to bridge your gap. Now on this one, we don't really necessarily need it to because we can see the house behind it. But for this piece here, if you can see, that doesn't go together. So this piece here held it together. So it doesn't have to be the full length of the card is basically what I'm getting at for this point. So hopefully that makes sense. One other thing you want to keep in mind is you don't want it to be so tight that you can't take your card or take the band on and off of your card. So you give it a little bit of a crease. I'm going to flip it over and just kind of do the same. But kind of just testing, can you slide it up and down? And you can. So this one, just where it happens to overlap, is where we're going to take off our adhesive. And we're going to hook this. This is going to be the part that holds it together. However, if you remember, I put sticker sheet on this, right? So this little tip is going to stick. So I'm going to show you how to fix it. Okay. Oh, Sherry, that's so kind of you to say. I'm happy to see you guys too, believe me. I miss you as much as you miss me. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to close this, overlap it, making sure that these pieces line up because you don't want to have to trim anything off. So even if they don't line up, so mine right now is kind of off. I don't know if you can see that. They're not lining up exactly. I'm just pushing this down. And I'm going to put it so my little piece of the house kind of covers that line there. All right, so I'm pressing here. I'm not going to put the top part down yet. I'm pressing here, and then I'm going to slide this off. So we still have that adhesive sheet right there, okay? So if you don't have one of these, we do have a new little thing that this comes in. This is an embossing buddy. This is my second one that I've had since I've been a stamper, and I've stamped for probably 20 years now. So this is a non-stick powder. So when you do embossing, it helps your embossing powder only to stick where you want it to be. But it also is good if you have adhesive somewhere and you don't want it. So what we're going to do is we're going to just take this and we're going to tap it. And it makes this so it's completely not sticky. Now it also added a little spooky effect to our house there. But I'm going to do it too because I have just a little line here. So I'm just going to lightly tap. There we go. And that's it. That's how you make that work so then you don't have any adhesive where you don't want it. So now that that's sealed, I am going to just take my bone folder and just press this down because this is holding our card closed. So see, we have that there, which you don't need to do anything else. That will be perfectly fine right where it is. Now, since this is kind of as is, it's not super exciting. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my Tuxedo black ink and my black only blender pen, and I'm going to add in some weeds. So I'm going to just dip this in here and we'll test to make sure we have enough. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just add in right here, just like some varying weeds, sizes of weeds. Okay, now you don't have to do this, but I just thought, just since we have just a little bit of time left, and just to give you an idea of what you could do if you didn't want to. You could be super artsy if you wanted to. Let's see what we could do one look like. I'm just trying to make sure before I get crazy. You could even add a little bit of a tree in there. Sorry, when I draw trees, apparently I have to be quiet and completely concentrate. Okay. And then we'll just come right down here again and just continue on with our little grass, just like so. Another thing I always think is fun to do, and I don't really know why necessarily, but if I ever do anything that has a silhouette, because I did it for the little kids, I always feel the need to add Wink of Stella on it. So, does anybody else do that aside from me? So that's, you know what we can even do over here? We can just do a little headstone in the shadow. And now, if I did this, I don't know how a moon would look necessarily, because I could do a little black moon, but I don't know if that would look good or not. So when you do have your black, it's really hard to get out, which is why I never really clean it. I always just label one black. And then this one, on the other hand, is white. So I'll see if I can show you. Yeah, it's still wet because the white craft ink, if it keeps capped, pretty much always stays wet. So there's that little spot for you there. And I want to grab one other thing. Let me see, where's my Wink of Stella pen, and I will have another really cool tutorial to do. I actually recorded one the other day and I botched it up. So I was going to just put it on and let you guys see that, you know, everybody makes mistakes and whatnot, but it was so goofy. I have to fix it. But it's a really cool tip if you have empty blender pens and maybe you're kind of like, I'm going to throw these out. I did a card that I ended up using pretty much mostly empty blender pens for, and it looked really, really cool. So I will try and either record that or set up a time to do a live with that. I can't make any promises on how soon, but all right, so there's that. I feel like the only other thing, and I'm going to do this really quickly because I think it'll look cuter if we do it with it. If I can find my little piece that I cut my house out of. I'm going to just do, I'm going to do 3 bats. I'm going to do 3 bats. We'll put that on and then we'll be done. So I'm just going to run these through the die cut. And we will wrap it up. Probably the hardest part of this sometimes is trying to die cut quickly with a magnetic plate when it doesn't like to stay in one place. 1 and 2. Okay, I don't know if these are all going to fit on there because they might be a little bit too big. Here's the 3rd one. Okay, and I always try to put my die cuts back. I have these magnetic sheets. I got these from Stampin' Storage, and they're nice because the other side is smooth, and they actually fit in the cases, which are even better. But so with these, the only thing you're going to do is just peel off your backing. You can put them. A little bit of dust on the table here. Do 2. And I think I'll save one for the inside. I cut my nails off a couple weeks ago and they really haven't grown in very much since then. So that's probably the hardest part, is getting the backs off. But you can see that Wink of Stella on there, which is really cute. And then we're going to just slide this on. The only thing we didn't add on here is a greeting, which we absolutely could, but I'll do that another time. So I still have one other bat that I can put somewhere else on there as well. So I hope you guys enjoyed this project as much as I enjoyed showing it to you. I think it was truly amazing how this black and white with just little bits of yellow DSP turned out to be so cool. Now, one thing I do want to mention to you, now with Stampin' Up, a lot of supplies that we have sometimes can be while supplies last because of the nature of carrying all these products. This particular paper happens to be in the holiday catalog, so the June to July. So it's in the back, 159,913. So again, you can get this with host benefits. So if you have an order, a personal order that's $150 or more, and you're using host rewards either as a customer or as a demonstrator, you can add this. You can't just buy this otherwise. So this is definitely something where if you wanted to have an online party, or if you had an in-person party, you could redeem this as one of your host rewards. I definitely think it's something that, unless you're looking for it or someone shares it with you, you're really not going to know it's back there. Of course, you also have the caroling mice, but I was like, I'm going to go for the paper. And honestly, man, talk about some cool paper to go with. So here are the 2 Halloween versions, and then I have my Christmas version here with the other one that we created today. So lots of fun doing this with Stampin' Blends. Again, you could do this with any blend colors you have, depending on what you have. You don't have to necessarily order colors. I still have Mango Melody, which I use quite a lot because it's a great orangey color. However, we don't carry that one anymore, but it's a beautiful color to be able to use for this. And then between the difference with the yellow, this one was only 1 inch. My belly band here was about 1.25 inches. This one was definitely smaller, so you can jazz it up, you know, make it whatever you want it to be. But I thank you guys so very much for joining me. If you would like to get any of these supplies and more, you can totally shop in my online store. I appreciate any of your support. It is rachthestamper.stampinup.net. If you're new to my channel, I would love for you to give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel, share the video with someone that you know. Those are great ways to support me without spending a dime. You can take some time to leave a comment here. You can share it with someone. All of those things are so greatly appreciated. I really appreciate you staying by and watching this with me, especially with our beginning technical difficulties. But anyway, I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I hope to see you all again real soon. Take care.